Alright, hello everyone, it is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another movie review. Today we are reviewing a movie that is near and dear to both my heart and my childhood. It is probably one of my absolute favorite movies. Just a movie I love to watch every now and again because it is so fun and so cool and so interesting of a movie. I'm talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? We find out in the movie. First things first, right off the bat, as always, I am not a professional. I'm not a professional movie reviewer at all. Just a man who enjoys a good time. And rewatching this movie for the first time in a little while, I must admit, definitely had a good time rewatching this movie and revisiting this movie. This is a movie that I've seen several times, especially growing up as a kid, and being able to rewatch it here, definitely he was a treat. Definitely fun to watch, and it's a movie that has a lot going for it, a lot of cool things blending together, and a lot of stuff that was revolutionary and in a lot of ways kind of ahead of its time. But we're gonna get into that in a few moments. Right off the bat, as always, if you watched my reviews before, you kind of already know how things work. But for those of you who this is your first time watching one of my reviews, first of all, welcome, and I hope you enjoy. But we're pretty much going to go over the pros and the cons of the movie, what I liked, what I didn't really like about the movie, and know that most, if not all, of this is my opinion. So if you disagree with anything, and that is totally fine. But let me know about it in the comments below. But starting off with what I liked about the movie, and right off the bat, one of the coolest things about the movie is how it integrates both the live action stuff with the animated stuff around it. So there is a blend of both live action actors and everything, as well as animated characters. A lot of them hand drawn and then brought to life with animation and editing and stuff like that. And because they had to add in a lot of this animation in post to where they kind of had to do like props and markers and stuff to where the characters were supposed to be. I saw a little bit of behind the scenes of some of the movie and everything. Because of that, the actors kind of had to work around where the characters are supposed to be and then act accordingly. Especially Anthony Hopkins, aka Eddie Valiant. Rest in peace to him, of course. But that I think is pretty cool, and definitely a lot of hard work and dedication goes into that type of thing. And I imagine that type of thing is not easy to do, to be able to have to act out the movements as if someone is there, but they're not really there. They're going to be added there in post. So for now, you kind of have to just go with it until the other person, until the other thing is animated in there, and um, and it is pretty cool how they were able to pull it off and make it look pretty seamless. It really does feel like the character is right there. The character that's being animated is right there next to the other character, the live action actor, and everything. And this is a world where both live action characters and the cartoon animated characters essentially live side by side. The movie takes place in Los Angeles, but right next to Toontown, where a lot of the cartoons reside and everything. And so to have that integration of both the live action section and then the animated characters, which I thought was pretty cool, especially when Eddie Valiant ends up going to Toontown, where the whole world is animated and everything. I thought that was pretty cool as well, how they did that, and made it look really good for the most part. I like the narrative throughout, how it's a mystery, and there's stuff that leads up to the big twist, and I like how there's little subtle hints that lead up to the twist going forward, where there's stuff where when you rewatch it, you're like, oh, Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and oh, that's why they did that. So because it did this later on. Okay, I got it. So, oh, that I think is pretty cool. How it leaves you paying attention to the movie, and then when the twist happens, and which I will unfortunately spoil, but the movie is kind of old, and I do recommend you check it out. But um, when the twist happens, it's like, oh, okay, that's why they did it like that. That's why this and this was in place. That's actually pretty cool. Well, I like how that was done, and it's stuff to where they drop little breadcrumbs. They do like a breadcrumbs approach where it's little stuff leading into the big twist, but the big twist itself still feels rewarding, and it's not too obvious. Although you can probably guess at it, but then it does leave room for those like oh moments, like oh okay, those like oh moments. I think that's pretty cool, and definitely it makes you want to engage in the story and pay attention to what's going on because obviously there's a mystery going wrong. Going around, I should say. Hey, it looks like we got another mystery on our hands. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. Well, um, the narrative, I might as well get into it, is that Roger Rabbit, as the name of the movie suggests, has been framed. There was Marvin Acme, who creates the Acme tools and stuff, that was killed, and Roger Rabbit is accused of it, especially since Marvin Acme and his wife Jessica and Roger Rabbit's wife Jessica were playing patty cake, literally playing patty cake, not like the innuendo thing. Which, as a kid, I was like playing patty cake. That's kind of funny. But then, as an adult, or as I got older, I should say, when I realized that like playing patty cake was like a pretty much innuendo, it's like, oh, okay. Hey, so that's what they meant by that. It's them playing patty cake, but then it's literally that's literally the joke is oh they're literally playing patty cake. They're not like patty cake. They're actually playing like patty cake with the hands. But that so that is that, and then Roger is accused and is wanted for murder. He has to hide out, and he entrusts Eddie to help him. Eddie wants nothing to do with it though because he doesn't like Toons. He doesn't trust Toons, and then we find out Toon killed his brother, which is why. And then Judge Doom takes over the investigation and everything, and we find out he owns Clover, which brought out the train station, and if Marvin Acme's will isn't found, then Doom will have control of Toontown. And then we find out not only was Judge Doom behind the murder of Marvin Acme and R.K. Maroon, who was part of Maroon Pictures, who employed cartoons and everything, and created like cartoon movies and stuff like that. But then we also find out that Judge Doom is a Toon himself, and is actually the very Toon that killed Eddie Valiant's brother. And there's stuff like I said that breadcrumbs approach that hinted at the big twist at the end, and the fact that Judge Doom made this concoction known as dip, which pretty much kills cartoons. It's made of ingredients like benzidine and stuff like that. I believe I did mispronounce that or get the name wrong, but stuff that kills tunes. But Judge Doom is wearing gloves, so he's not affected by it. There's stuff like that, and then and there's the fact that Roger is innocent and that he says he's not capable of murder and things like that, and then the fact that at that Marvin Acme was killed by the safe being dropped on his head. It's similar to how Eddie's brother was killed, but instead of a safe, it was piano that killed Eddie Valiant's brother. So little stuff like that that's integrated into the movie really helps bring the story to life and really flesh it out. And it's stuff where you'll feel rewarded if you didn't get and but you also feel like, oh, I should have known, but you also didn't get it. But that I think makes for a really compelling story. It makes for a really interesting story, which is really fun to watch. And then, of course, one of the big things with this, well, actually, before I get into that, I got to talk about the balancing of emotions in this movie, which I think they pulled off tremendously. The fact that there's a little bit of romance, there's some comedy, there's serious moments, and there's drama, there's suspense, there's, of course, the mystery and everything. I think all this is blended just right to where it's not too weighted to one side. There's not too much of one, and one will usually balance out the other and keep things level and everything, and which I think is really good and important for a lot of movies. As if it leans too much towards one, usually that's where it loses people or it loses certain types of people. If you're someone who's into a certain amount of that, then you may like that it has more of that than this other thing. But the fact that this movie balances it out means there's something for just about everyone, and there's a lot for everyone to enjoy, which is really good to think about and makes it worth a watch. And the big thing is the collaboration between Warner Brothers and Disney. The fact that there's both Warner Brothers characters such as like Looney Tunes, and then there's Disney characters such as like Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Donald Duck. That stuff is pretty cool. The fact that there's these two major cartoon companies coming together for this collaboration and having their characters pretty much live amongst each other in harmony. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. It's kind of like a once in a lifetime thing where there's something that it will probably never happen again, even though they've wanted to make a Roger Rabbit sequel. They've been talking about doing a Roger Rabbit sequel and possibly even a prequel for ages, but so far nothing. They did have some animated shorts that they did hit for Roger Rabbit, but that's about it. But in terms of like a full length movie or like an origin for Roger Rabbit, How He Met Jessica Rabbit, and stuff like that, so far nothing's come of it. Which is kind of disappointing, but at the same time, definitely makes this movie feel even more special because it's this like once in a lifetime thing, and it's this very special thing, and hasn't really been done before or since, and it definitely makes it worth tuning into to watch because yeah, you essentially have the best of both worlds. You have the worlds combining and everything, and crossover stuff is things that we've seen before and since this movie. But the fact that it's integrated so seamlessly here, and the fact that Disney and Warner Brothers characters are essentially on equal footing, and where one doesn't automatically triumph over the other. There isn't really an overabundance of one versus the other. I think that's pretty cool, and that really makes both companies feel special, and that's probably the agreement that they reached when they decided to collaborate for this movie. Is that hey, we don't want your characters outshining my characters, and my characters want to outshine your characters, pretty much equal and everything. I think that's pretty cool. And in terms of what I didn't really like about the movie, and this stuff is kind of nitpicky, more so on my end. The fact that it kind of has the message of like, oh, corporation bad, because essentially Judge Doom's plan is to build a freeway. Hey, so this movie, while it was made in the 1980s, let me get the exact year, but while it was made in the 1980s, it's set in the 1940s before the creation of the freeway and everything. So that's essentially what Judge Doom wants to do, and everybody's like, "Oh, who would want to ride on a freeway?" It's kind of like it's kind of hitting the nail on the head a little bit, and I feel like again, and kind of pushing that, yeah, yeah, big corporation bad, freeway bad, and so movie came out in 1988. So 1988 is when the movie came out. Oh, and it does kind of have that idea of like the whole corporation bad, freeway bad, keep the tunes and everything. And so that message I feel like was kind of ham-fisted a little bit, but maybe that's just me. And one of like the gray areas where where I get why they did what they did hit for this thing but at the same time, it does kind of come as a bit of a drawback, is a deleted scene. So there is a deleted scene in that, and I'll tell you why it's deleted and everything, but it's a pretty interesting scene. Pretty much Eddie Valiant, because how the movie mainly starts out is Eddie Valiant taking pictures of Jessica Rabbit and Marvin Agnew playing patty cake and everything. And he goes back to the theater where he took the pictures, but is apprehended by Judge Doom and his minions, and then Eddie Valiant's put in this giant animated pig head, and he's running around screaming like "I've been tuned" and everything, and he essentially washes it off in the shower with one of the ingredients he uses, the benzidine, to wash off in the shower. And then that segues into the next scene where Jessica enters Eddie's office and he's half naked. He doesn't have a shirt on. He just has on his pants and the tie and everything. Now, this scene was ultimately cut from the movie, and the reason they said they cut it from the movie is because it broke the pacing and it slowed the pace of the movie a little bit. It having this scene, which it really isn't a long scene, but they said it broke the pace and everything, uh, and so that's why it was cut, which is a shame for them at least because uh, it was one of the earliest scenes they actually finished in terms of like editing and post and everything, and it ended up being deleted. Now, thankfully, both the scene and the explanation behind it are intact, not just on YouTube, but also on Disney Plus. If you go to the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie on Disney Plus and then look under in the extras tab, you will find the deleted scene of the pig head and everything. And I kind of get it. It how it breaks the pacing a little bit of the movie. They wanted a bit of a faster pace for the movie. Plus, that pig head kind of did look creepy, but um, at the same time, I feel like it would have made sense having that in there. And it's not like it didn't belong because it explained why he was coming out of the shower, even though now without the scene it could just be him taking a shower, but that was the actual reason why he's taking a shower. But it kind of did make sense in the grand scheme of things. That and since they already finished it, why not just let them put it in the movie? This and I don't think because it's not a long scene. Like I said, it's not really a long scene. It's maybe like 3 4 minutes. It wouldn't really. I don't think it would have affected the pace of the movie that much. Having the scene in there, it would have slowed it down a little bit, I will admit, but it picks up right after the whole office visit and everything, and because that's when Roger Rabbit is causing the scene at the bar, and then Judge Doom and his minions enter the bar, and Roger Rabbit and Eddie and end up outsmarting them and everything. So, from there, the pace picks up towards the movie. So, I don't think it would have broke the pace that much. But I do get headed. I guess they didn't really want the pace slowed down at all. Also, the scene ended up on the cutting room floor. But also, kind of a silver lining is that in the scene where Eddie is taken to get the pig head on him and everything, he actually enters Toontown and he leaves from Toontown. Now, Eddie would go to Toontown, into Toontown, as I mentioned, after Arcane Maroon was killed and he's chasing after the killers and everything into Toontown, who Eddie suspects is Jessica Rabbit. He's suspicious of her the whole time. But he chases this killer into Toontown and everything. And it's also followed by a really awesome scene where Eddie breaks his drinking habit that he has after the death of his brother. Or he kicks his drinking habit, and he enters Toontown. Now, oh, I don't think the scene where he enters Toontown would have been as impactful if this deleted scene was kept in place because here we see him entering Toontown and then later on he'll enter Toontown again. And it's at least implied in the movie that Eddie's been to Toontown before, but I think with that scene being cut, it really makes the scene where Eddie enters Toontown for the first time to the audience at least. He's for the first time in a long time where he enters Toontown. I think that scene is made even more special. The fact that now he's heading into Toontown after having all this distrust for raccoons and everything, and it makes both of him heading into Toontown and the reveal of Toontown and everything. It makes that moment even more special, and it makes it work a lot more now that he's actually in Toontown. I think the impact would have been, it still would have been really cool. Well, Toontown is still a really gorgeous scene and everything, and visually impressive scene in the movie, but the impact would have been lessened. It wouldn't have been completely gone. I won't say it would be completely gone, but it would have been lessened if Eddie had went to Toontown before for the pig head and then went back to Toontown. So, I guess there's that. That's why I call it kind of a gray area, because there's good and bad to them taking that scene out. But it does suck that they actually finished the scene just for it to be left on the cutting room floor. I do think that sucks. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for my review. Still a really awesome, really fun movie to watch, and I hope you enjoyed my review. I definitely recommend you guys checking out the movie. It's definitely a classic and definitely one of my favorite movies. If you did enjoy the video, please do me a favor and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends, and I will see you guys later. Peace.